Since ancient times, the maelstrom of struggle between the human prisoners and the undead. It never stopped. It seems endless. It seems like there is no end. Until the advent of the three-stitch gate. 3 disciples on different timelines. Under the guidance of the teacher's quality assurance, 3 needles in the same month. Shoots at the same time with 3 causal points. Silence the source of these undead creatures. A monster that spans cause and effect. Can be in the history of this 3-stitch method. But once he was almost wiped out. One day in 1854 A.D. The contemporary head of the 3 Truths is talking to his disciples about the former glory of the sect. As he spoke, he took out a piece of quaint armor. On top of this tortoiseshell, it is also depicted with the symbol of the 3-stitch method. This thing is the treasure of the 3-needle method. 3 needles in the same month. The eyes of the disciples were instantly attracted by this object. The next moment, only to find that the head of the head had moved. Should it be said or not? The boss left a little suddenly. Everyone looked at the murderer in front of them in horror. This is a Nirvana master in armor. At this moment, he is holding up the head of the brain. It is said that twisted melons are not sweet, but it can be seen that it quenches thirst. The head was left in an instant. The fate of the disciples can be imagined. In the end, there is only the little junior brother in the door. Under the cover of senior brothers and sisters. Escaped with 3 stitches of the same month. Circumstances change with the passage of time. AD 1906. Ma Zhao, the little junior brother who escaped back then. Now it has become a triple stitch. The 217th generation of the Dharma Gate. At this moment, he is taking his 3 disciple Gao Haoguang. Go out and practice. Between words. A withered ghost hand emerges from the graveyard. It's a zombie with a twisted face. He hides here during the day. At night, it crawls out of the ground. Go to a nearby village and steal the living. Look at the zombies that are jumping up and down and approaching quickly. Gao Haoguang took out a piece of fulu. Look anonymously. The fulu in his hand began to burn. The next moment, transform into a golden sword and attack the zombies. But the golden sword hasn't touched the zombies yet. Just dissipate in the air. Gao Haoguang couldn't help but go when he saw this. What this little old man taught was really unreliable. Ma Zhao saw this, directly raised his leg and stepped on the zombie's face. Kick it away at the same time. He took out a piece of fulu from his sleeve and threw it out. Fulu burned in the air. The next moment, by all means, the huge gold ingots appears on top of the zombie's head. In a panic, the ingots fell. A burst of golden light brought the golden light away. The zombies hit by ingots have long since turned into chicken powder. After doing all this, the little old man stood upright. Pretend to be a master. Gao Haoguang has long been accustomed to this. Although he is a cheap master who is not in tune on weekdays. Once you get serious, it's still quite strong. The power of the refined captives was terrifying. That made him desperate back then. What the hell is a monster? On the way back, Gao Haoguang couldn't help but express the doubts in his heart. It stands to reason that the master's master should be stronger. How could you almost be wiped out by that kind of thing? But when you think about it, Ma Zhao sighed in his heart. I couldn't help but look sad. It turns out that there are many kinds of nirvana. The one they had just encountered. It is after the death of ordinary people. For some reason, he became a regular teacher. In addition to the great speed. There aren't many Reisher. Not difficult to deal with. And the one I encountered back then. It is a person who possessed mana during his lifetime. The living teacher who became after death. Not only does it have the wisdom of not losing people, and a body like fine iron, there are even elusive magical spells in their possession. With the supernatural powers of Ma Zhao and their brothers at that time, there is nothing that can be done about him. After Ma Zhao escaped, it is in this unknown 3 Truths third Dharma house. Continue to cultivate. He also accepted 3 apprentices. And Gao Haoguang is the most special, because he is the one who was chosen by the 3 Truths in the same month. Ma Zhao was in a trance for a moment, turning his gaze to the present. A teenager who is cultivating with his eyes closed. I saw him pick up a piece of Fu Lu and pinch it with both hands. The next moment, Fu Lu turned into a flame in his hand. But it only lasted for a moment before the flames dissipated. The blessings in his hands also turned to dust. Seeing this, Ma Zhao was a little helpless to discuss the silly boy. I have long said that there is only the blessing of refining by yourself. It can also give full play to its microenergy. The captives you have trained as a teacher. Naturally, halfway microenergy was not written. Young man, you still have to practice. Gao Guangguang looked angry. Since the age of 8, was deceived by this unreliable little old man. This so-called three-stitch method was originally not learned, not to be said. I learned a lot about strange things. In short, none of them can be mixed and eaten. Between words, the two of them returned to the third Dharma house of the three true Dharma. But at this moment, the whole mansion was surprisingly quiet. The master and apprentice duo who realized that something was wrong hurriedly looked for the figure of the senior brother and sister in the mansion. The next moment it was in the hall. Saw a scene that made the two of them almost desperate. The senior brother and sister were one. The armor-clad Nirvana master choked his head. The doctor who almost killed the three-needle method back then found zombies. Angry with the giant monkey because of the unknown death, inhumanity, and loss of reason. And this giant in front of him, a living master who was transformed by the death of a person who possessed mana in his life, also known as a mage. This type of Nirvana master not only possesses a spiritual intelligence that is not inferior to others, also possesses elusive magical spells. It was him 50 years ago. Almost wiped out the sect where the old Taoist priest was. I didn't expect him to come again today, 50 years later. He was still holding two of Ma Zhao's disciples in his hand. Could it be that the previous tragedy will be repeated? Abandon it like a flood that bursts its banks. I can't help but feel like it. Looked at the old Taoist priest with a gloomy expression. The mage's smile was full of blood. The reason why he waited until now? He wanted to eat his apprentice in front of Ma Zhao. And yet at this moment, the sound of breaking the air sounded. The flaming imperial talisman struck straight at the mage. Bang! A mage who underestimates the enemy was hit by this sudden and strong blow. Boom to fly out. 50 years have passed. Today's Ma Zhao is no longer the same person as he was back then. The little Taoist priest of fish and meat. Gao Haoguang beside him who watched this scene was very excited. But only Ma Zhao himself knows. Just that level of attack. Not at all against this mage. What substantial harm was caused? All I could do right now was try to hold him back. Give the disciples time to escape. It's as if history is repeating itself. 50 years ago, he was Ma Zhao's senior brother and sister. Used his life to win a glimmer of life for him. But this time he couldn't run away. He also wanted to use his life. For these 3 stitches. Strive for a chance to continue. So he will be the treasure of the town. The 3 needles of the same month order were handed over to the 3rd disciple Gao Haoguang. He spent his whole life. I haven't been able to understand the mystery of it. The next thing can only rely on his disciples. Gao Haoguang's eyes were resolute and took the 3 injections of the same month. It's like you've made a decision. But the master who was facing everyone said, but also remembered. Don't force yourself to live well. Looking at the back of the master walking into the darkness. The 3 disciples were grief-stricken. They know that after today, I'm afraid I'll never see the master again. The old way is to contain the mage. Several people took the opportunity to escape and began to run for their lives, reminiscing about the bits and pieces of getting along with the master in the past. Began to pour remorse into my heart. Endless remorse. Why can you be so stupid yourself? I haven't repaid my master once for so many years. A sense of powerlessness and a strong hatred for the Nirvana master, filled with highly drained minds. He didn't even notice it. At this moment, he held the hand of the 3-needle copper moon order tightly. It's oozing. The next moment the tortoise shell began to heat up. A A suspenseful energy enveloped him, floated into the air. Gradually, the imprint of a three-stitch method was formed, and in the center of this imprint, a vague shadow emerges. Accompanied, there was also an ethereal voice. When the chosen one, the time of the resolution to produce Z for the undead. It's our fateful guests. Obstacle avoidance across time. Ask Ben Xianjun for help. The disciples of this sect fell with the voice. The shadow within the imprint also began to become clear. In the history of the three noble dharmas, there have been three supernatural powers who are the first in the world. The Dharma seeker who overwhelms thousands of methods is the supreme Dharma venerable. Ginseng, a patriarch. The grandson of the Lord of Life and Death, the grandson of the mountains and rivers, Patriarch Lin. And what appears in front of you? It is known as the Chang clan, 10,000 law, immortal monarch. The name of the ancestor of the sun. He at the moment. It is more than 1,300 years ago in the Three Truths. The third method of the Dharma. Through the sect's treasure three true orders of the same month. Spanning the river of time. Talk to Gao Haoguang, a disciple 1,000 years later. You know how strong this man is in front of you. Heavenly Tao's shots failed to hurt him in the slightest. Prisoners thrown out of their hands. It can make this heaven and earth die. 10,000 arrows roared in unison. This person's name is General Democracy. He was the patriarch of the Three Truths in 525 AD. He is one of the strongest seekers in history. The world respectfully calls him the Chang clan, 10,000 law, immortal monarch. At this moment, he is passing the quality assurance of the master. The Three Truths have the same experience across the long river of time. And 1,000 years later, the sect disciples Sun against China. Looking at the patriarch who appeared in front of him, Gao Haoguang seemed to grasp the life-saving straw, bow respectfully to the air, and spoke. If you are the ancestor of the great power of 1,000 years ago, please help my master. He was in a bitter battle with the mage. Life is in danger, brother. This sudden scene of the senior sister to the little junior brother. It's a big difference. Because they can't see. Three truths in the same month. Will Akiko's gaze. There was a pause on Gao Haoguang's body. After a moment of thought, passed on to the disciple in front of him to break the game. After receiving the help of the patriarch, Gao Haoguang did not hesitate at all. Resolutely turned around and ran towards the house. The move was very risky. The slightest mistake is undoubtedly given in vain. So he didn't talk to his brother. Senior sister explained some of the things she knew. Looking at Gao Haoguang and walking away. Akiko's expression was cold. A little French. Dare to underestimate my junior true method. After that, he saw him take out a captive. Walk towards one of the third dharma in this place. Striking boulders are thrown away. The captives should fall into the earth in front of the boulders. While doing all this, Akiko also carved a mark on the boulder. This is the third Dharma house in 525 A.D. Will Mingzi plant blessings at this moment and inform Gao Haoguang 1,000 years later where Fu Lu is located in order to solve the mortal situation of the sect. On the other side, Gao Haoguang was anxious. Finally rushed back to the third Dharma, but he saw Ma Zhao, who had lost an arm. At the moment, he was choked by the mage. Looking at Gao Haoguang, who appeared in front of him again, the mage's eyes were full of qi and blood, and Ma Zhao was full of despair at the moment. Scolded him for being an unfilial son. But Gao Haoguang didn't pay attention to the two. Begin. Run in a certain direction towards this third Dharma. The mage who was engaged in this hand was a little stunned. But at the moment, Ma Zhao is already a tomb of forcible humiliation. Poses no threat to him. So he threw it aside. Get ready to play with the little ones. And at this moment, Gao Haoguang also found his ancestral master. The boulder mentioned to it. And on top of this boulder, I also saw the arrow mark left by Akiko. But the French ghost hand is coming in an instant. Seeing that he was about to grasp Gao Haoguang in his hands. Bang. Sudden attack. The attack of the ghost hand was slammed. It turned out that Gao Haoguang's senior brother and sister rushed back. Although I don't know what the little junior brother wants to do. Although knowing that turning back may die. But they came anyway. Ma Zhao saw that his heart was like ashes. There was hysterical despair on his face. Could it be that today I have 3 chastity methods? It's really going to be completely destroyed here. But what answered him was Gao Haoguang's lifelong roar. At this moment, he had come to the realm of the boulder, with the strange fountain blasting down. A powerful wave of mana emanated. The mage's heart shuddered. At the moment, he was on this little guy. I felt a life and death crisis. And the source of this crisis. It is the fulu that Gao Haoguang is holding in his hand. Return to the king to see the government. The next moment the clouds changed. Countless sword lights swirled in the sky. The piercing sound of the sword seemed to shatter the sky. From a distance, a majestic sword array engulfed the entire third Dharma palace. The crowd's jaws dropped at the scene in front of them. Even the East Hall of Mingzi was exposed, not surprised by the power of the captives. Instead, he was surprised by this little apprentice. He can actually play the prisoners he has refined. As Gao Haoguang's finger fell, the rain of swords began to sweep towards the mage. At the moment when the two come into contact, the so-called indestructible body, it was turned into dust. After the sword and the mage of Shun, straight through the mountain and disappeared into the sky. I saw the third Dharma mansion that I had worked so hard to build, after 1,000 years, was destroyed like this by his own disciples. Akiko was speechless for a while. But this kid is also worthy of being ordered by the 3 truths in the same month. The chosen ones. But it's not enough. There is still an opportunity left. Time passes. In the ancestral hall of the 3 Truths Dharma Gate in 2020 AD, Masaki is a teenager in a school uniform, and the one that is in his hands at the moment. It is the order of the same month as the 3 Truths. It's probably the most unorthodox school I've ever seen. The ancestor said clearly, the law is the first in the world, but she likes to transform into a female student. Go seduce some young boys. This person is the patriarch of the 3 Truths. Try the first king of 10,000 laws, will be Mingzi. It's also the tiger of the little boy in front of him. Since the last time with the help of the stock market to give Fu Lu to solve. Lost in law. The third Dharma of the 3 noble dharmas. Once again, it was back to its former calm. At this moment, Gao Haoguang's second senior brother Huang Ergua is carefully looking at the 3 Zhen Tongyue orders in his hands. He couldn't figure out whether it was talent or beauty. I'm so outstanding. Why wasn't he the one who was chosen by the 3 true Tongyue order? Ma Zhao scolded with a beautiful smile. Take back the Tongyue order from his hands, and threw it to Gao Haoguang casually. Since these 3 disciples of him are the 3 truths, the person chosen by the same Yu order, then it should be handed over to him for safekeeping. Gao Haoguang looked at the tortoise shell in his hand and fell into deep thought. Ask the master after a while. What is the purpose of the existence of the 3 true lunar order? But the old man said confidently at the time, I'm getting older. I don't remember why this treasure exists. Gao Haoguang was a little speechless, with a trash-like gaze, looked at the unreliable little old man in front of him. At that time, he was a little embarrassed. After scolding the unfilial son, he walked angrily towards the study. The figure brought to the old time disappeared. A girl walks out of the kitchen with a meal. This person is the master sister of these 3-stitch methods. Miao Qingqing. Although the entry is the earliest, the star nature is the simplest. Often by Gao Hao. The mischief of the 2 of them was so angry that they cried. After some fun, Gao Haoguang suddenly discovered the 3 truths in their hands are the same month. Disappeared inexplicably, just as he was looking for it. Behind him came the voice of the patriarch. It turned out that at this moment, the Sanjin lunar order was activated again. Opened up time avoidance. The 2 are separated by 1,000. Years of time and space have once again made a connection. Akiko passed through the same month order. Greeted his apprentices. Your name is Haoguang, right? I'll call you Huizai in the future. Inexplicable opening. Gao Haoguang couldn't help but roll his eyes. Secretly attached to non-emotional and out of tune. It's a single transmission of these three true methods. Zhang Mingzi didn't care about this. Still putting on an unfathomable expression. Said to himself, but I didn't notice. A small bug was flying towards him behind him. The next moment this one was recognized. One of the strongest Dharma seekers in history. Sungun. He started shouting like a woman, yelling that the patriarch is actually afraid of insects. Gao Haoguang couldn't hold back for a while. Blurted out a real sissy immortal. I didn't expect the next moment. The grandfather in front of him. Actually incarnated into the appearance of a woman. And also claims to have 3 layers of life. It's a girl who has gone deep. And even became quite a few young. Child's dream lover. Looking at the front of him, he smiled. A coquettish grandfather. Gao Haoguang only felt a chill in his heart. This guy is really a toad and a frog. Ugly flowers. After some fun, Akiko's expression was shocked. Began to talk about the meaning of the existence of the 3 truths and the same month. Since ancient times, the struggle between the living and the Nirvana Master never stops. Even though the prisoners of the law have died countless in battle. Nor is there any possibility of banning the enemy. The root cause. It's an existence called Many Shurxian. He is the source of many immortal masters. A monster that straddles cause and effect. He exists in the past at the same time. Present and future within the 3 causes and effects. 10 points in any one cause and effect. None of them can ban it. His endless recovery will make all your efforts. It's as meaningless as a bamboo basket to draw water. Of course, the conclusion of all this is in the same month of the 3 truths. Before it appeared, after many ancestors of the 3 truths method, thousands of years of painstaking research, finally, I realized that one can be honored. The law of the rival. That is by the 3 truths in the same month. Choose the right person among the 3 10 points of cause and effect. Buy them at 3 points in time. At the same time, the king of Nirvana will be destroyed. But now there is still one person missing. But this immortal monarch believes in the near future. He will definitely appear in this cause and effect. This immortal king wants you to become stronger. And then on a certain day, together, we will destroy the king of the Nirvana altar. A gourd in your hand becomes your sky electronics. 10,000 arrows roared in unison. This man is one of the strongest seekers in history. Growing Wanfa Xianjun, General Mingzi. At this moment, he is borrowing the 3-needle copper reading order. Spanning thousands of years. To arrange a can mirror. The sand chrysanthemum of the face of the 10,000 leaves poet. And this white hair in front of me. It is the picture of Akiko 1,000 years later. Gao Haoguang is also the person who was selected by the 3-needle copper reading order. After listening to the patriarch, it is the door warranty. After the meaning of existence. Gao Haoguang could not be calm. But he didn't plan to let the master and others know all this. The old Taoist priest is already very old. Occasionally, there is a bit of dementia. Let him save it. And the senior sister is too gentle. He is not suitable for the suspected second senior brother. Huang Fat is very cheap. But it's not bad either. It is also a poisonous vaccine that is expected by the family. Only I have been a person since I was a child. Nothing to worry about. Seem to see what Gao Haoguang was thinking. Listen to Mingzi's slightly meaningful words. If you don't want them to get into danger, dig up the ground under your feet. There is a rope that will save them from life. Gao Hao glanced at his feet. I can't help but mutter, it's really troublesome. Seeing this, Mingzi laughed and scolded the stinky boy. Can't you be grateful? Say it. I saw that he took out a carving with 3 stitches. The wooden man of the imprint of the Dharma. In time and space in 1906 AD, Gao Haoguang slammed his fist into the ground under his feet. Meanwhile, in the year 525 A.D., the son of the people, it is also to throw Mu Xiao out and bury it in the ground. The two planes are separated by more than 1,000 years. Equivalent to a Kiko show. Inform Gao Haoguang of the location of the buried treasure in advance. He then buried Muxia in his timeline. Wait until 1,000 years later. Then Gao Haoguang dug it out. Gao Haoguang opened the wooden box. Inside it is a scroll and a red book. Zhang Mingzi at the moment though. I couldn't see the expression of his little apprentice, but he kept seducing with words. He picked up the scroll. Because of that scroll. In fact, it is a treasure that Zhang Mingzi has been refining for many years. As long as someone touches it, he will bring people nearby to him beforehand. Laid out the round. Those places where cause and effect were planted by Zhang Mingzi. Even with years of isolation, he wanted to too. Take this little apprentice grandson under complete control. Become one of his puppets. Unexpectedly, Gao Haoguang did not touch the scroll. Instead, he picked up the red book at the bottom. Akiko's daily events look like a diary. Can be serious people who write a diary. Let's talk about it. He glanced back at his patriarch. This is when he saw him at this time. He was also blindfolded. Zhang Mingzi felt a little inexplicable. When he buried the wooden river, he obviously only placed the scroll. And the Japanese style is still on his body at the moment. Why 1,000 years later? Will appear in the box with the scroll. Could it be in the years that followed? I will do it for a reason. I put this Japanese style in this box too. But this idea, soon let Akiko veto. Because of the stuff in it. It is absolutely not allowed to be seen by others. Let's talk about it. He immediately stopped Gao Haoguang's motivation to open the book. But his unfilial grandson is a little stubborn donkey. The more he stopped, the more Gao Haoguang's curiosity was aroused. In this regard, Mingzi is a little helpless, this kid. It's really interesting. It seems that he can only stop first. Or change to a different book to write about the day. What was left behind cannot be modified. Because the cause and effect that has already happened cannot be changed. Even if it's as strong as him, it can't. And yet at this moment, the fat yellow man looked at the scroll and the wooden man. Very curious. Reach out and pick it up. Gao Hao's lightsaber stabbed the gallbladder to stop it. But it was too late. At the moment when the yellow fat man's hand touched the scroll, a haughty energy enveloped both. Surprised. The two found out. The body rises uncontrollably in the air. Then the scroll let out a roar. Led Gao Haoguang and the two to fly towards the sky. Akiko's eyes narrowed slightly. Although there are a few more vignettes. But it can be regarded as letting this kid fall into the trap. Then let Ben Xianjun take a look at it now. How good is this kid? Time passed and the year 2020 AD passed. In the ancestral hall of the Three Truths, the little boy opened a wooden man. Inside lies a book. The passing of the sun should be a diary. The boy silently recited Patriarch Haoguang. The disciple was rude. Then I opened the diary. The information recorded thereon. But it made his three views collapse a little. The name will be a turtle egg. It's a spooky village. They offered living people as sacrifices. Pray for peace. But what they worship is not mysterious. It's a zombie. At this time, Gao was wrapped in the mystical energy of the scroll. Haoguang too. Flying rapidly in a certain direction. Exactly where it will be taken is unknown. But it should not be said. Just the flying posture of the two brothers. It's a bit of a lot. I didn't expect Hui Zai to play a little perverted. Along the way, Gao Haoguang incarnated as Zhu In and married the stars to earth. Scolded Jiang angrily in his heart. Mingzi is an unreliable grandfather 800 years. Just as it was brewing for the 801st time, the scroll in front of him suddenly shuddered. The next moment, he directly changed direction. Led the two of them towards the mountains and forests below. Gao Haoguang forgot to forget. Just wrapped in a scroll. It flew 500 or 600 meters in a northeasterly direction. It's almost time to arrive at Shuzhou Mansion. But it's just a meal. I have to admit it. That so-called Wangba immortal monarch is really strong. It is conceivable. That thing was a pervert with a serious women's clothing. Gao Haoguang discovered. I was more interested in the diary he wrote. As soon as he thought of this, he couldn't wait to turn the pages of the day. I want to take a good look at the past style of my grandfather. 2 large black eggs that catch your eye. It really makes him a little suspicious of life. I flipped through the whole day. On each page are large black eggs of different shapes. And there is no discipline to speak of. Not to mention what information can be seen. Gao Haoguang was a little speechless. And yet at this moment, a woman's voice came from the mountains and forests in the distance. It's like singing a ballad. The two of them followed the song in the direction from which the sound came. Birds feel birds. Bursts of nebula illuminate the mountains and forests. The wind is extinguished, and the wind is extinguished. Bursts of warm tint living people's day. However, white belt snow. It's a pity that every household has 97 voices. The absolute yuan is determined by the ministers. Don't do poverty alleviation and go with the flow. But the medicine lang robbery. The heart is hidden in the middle of the field. 7 lives and dies at 9 o'clock. I don't know it. The death penalty is immortal. Sick with the ballad. Gao Haoguang and the others also saw it. The master who heard the song. A girl in shabby clothes. But why would a woman be alone? Appeared in the mountains and forests. Just when the 2 brothers were puzzled. Suddenly, several dark shadows appeared behind the girl. Was trembling towards him. These are actually a few words of zombies with dry faces. They reached out and grabbed at the girl in front of them. But the girl never moved. Just sit quietly and say a word. I don't see this. Gao Haoguang and the others immediately came out of the grass. 3 under 5 divided by 2. So he kicked the goods out of the air. The zombie dish was a bit unexpected for the 2. Soft and elastic feet. Just a few words. The lowliest Zen master girl glanced back. The 2 of them suddenly burst out. Still silent. The expression is always calm. The zombie that was kicked away gets up again. Towards several people. Although the number is a bit much. But only to that extent. It doesn't pose a threat to a few people. I saw the yellow fat man's eyes shining. Take out a few fulu cards from your sleeves. Pinch with both hands. The next moment, the fulu in his hand turned into 7 golden copper coins. Make your way towards the approaching zombie chicken coop. But although these goods are not good at fighting, but the body is flexible. The copper coins flying from Jinjiang dodged one by one. But that's not all. One shot missed. The fat man controls 7 copper coins in one. Finally behind the zombies. Formed a king-sized 2-fruit tongbao. With the yellow fat man came to the past all his life. Quickly flew back to the top of the fat man's head. Several zombie heads were also brought back. It's hateful that he has pretended to be again. But things don't seem to be as far as they think. It's as simple as that. At this moment, he was above the head of the Changshi who was knocked away. Suddenly opened a scarlet tree. And a hoarse voice came from it. Have we ever offended the 2 prisoners? This scene shocked Huang Fatsi. This zombie actually has a spiritual quality. Could it be a mage? Gao Haoguang on the side saw that he was not a mage. At least not in front of me. These 4 permanent teachers should just be bodhisattvas who have been manipulated. And the Lord should be somewhere else. Right now, it's just a message in the realm. The next moment, the blood-red tree. His gaze turned to the girl on the side. The little girl tied these 2 to us alive. If not, take your whole village. The lives of 322 people were compensated. After saying that, the tree slowly closed. Disappeared without a trace. This is a zombie that has survived for thousands of years. He feeds on the living. However, he was revered by the nearby village as the Lord of the Market. There are even living offerings offered as offerings. This time, however, it was just as it was about to enjoy the sacrifice. Was stopped by Gao Haoguang and the others who accidentally broke in. This made him very angry. Zombies eat people for granted. What's more, sometimes people eat people. It's really too much of a deception. Speaking of which, the three-eyed zombie stared. He was on Gao Haoguang. I felt a familiar opportunity. It reminded him of a man. A murder that had terrified him for more than 1,000 years. Jiang Mingzi's memory couldn't help but come to his heart. The year goes back to 525 AD. Mingzi, who had just finished Pit the Little Apprentice grandson, had a dark face. I want to come to that scroll. They should be taken as well. Brought to the father of this immortal monarch with his mark. Although this immortal June is not clear. Where will it be sent? But if he can't pass this experience, if you lose your life, that can only prove that the same monthling chose the wrong person. So I had to wait for the next one. After all, this kid is still too tender. If you don't get stronger, you can't get stronger. I'm afraid that I will take this immortal monarch and wait until the beasts are exhausted. It is also impossible to complete the killing of the wild goose of the Wanya Shirxian. And yet at this moment, cries for help were heard from afar. It seems to be 10 miles away. It's a boring attempt. Wanfa Immortal June is ready to go and see the excitement. It is said that most of the personalities of the masters are strange and abnormal. The same is true for Jiang Mingzi. Once good things come up, the stupid car passed by his door. He wanted to get a spoon and taste the saltiness. And the other side, a few villagers who went into the mountains to collect medicine met the Nirvana Master. It's on the run for its life. The zombie in the lead. There is a blood-red tree in the heart of the plum. It was the three-eyed brother 1,000 years ago. A knot of branches broke through the air and struck straight through the chest of a villager. Watching his friend die. The villager by Da is in a catastrophe, is ready to die to avenge his friend. But I saw that the mage behind him was stunned in place. His eyes are looking squarely into the distance. It's like sensing something. At this time, a divine soul in the air was instantly absorbed. This person is none other than Akiko. I thought they were just ordinary bandits. I didn't expect it to be a Nirvana Master. This time, Xianjun was even more excited. He likes to clean up Nirvana too much. After all, it's a professional counterpart. An earth-shattering terrifying crow struck at him. Somewhere in a cave a few hundred kilometers away. The ontology catalog of the three-eyed brother was shocked. The staggering pressure that emanates. He had already been cold-hearted. Start beating wildly. Oops, it's a heartwarming feeling. In the world today, someone who can carry such a cultivation. I'm afraid it's only the legendary one. Try the 10,000 Laws Immortal Monarch. Three Eyes is tempted to cut ties with the golems directly. You can witness the strongest Dharma seeker in history. A chance to make a shot. Once in a blue moon. Left and right are just a puppet. Three Eyes decided to take another look. Meet the Nirvana Master. Show a fearless look. Jiang Mingzi realized that the sentence in front of him was not the ontology. Do you want to see the magic of this immortal king? Case. Then I'll do what you want. After that, I saw him throw out a jade seal. This is the prodigy of the Three Truths method, the Three Truths chasing the air raid. The jade seal flew out for a moment, and then disappeared into thin air. When it reappears, it's already in the chest of the Three Eyes. There is no substantial harm to this tree. The only purpose is to track the congregation. This tree was planted with cause and effect. Wherever you are, you will be avoided by it. The three-eyed body is hundreds of miles away. Look at the mark that appears on your chest. My heart is full of joy. He knew that this was the end of the story. Said that the Nirvana who fell into the hands of Jiang Mingzi. All of them will be tortured. Regret becomes immortality. Combine. Thinking of the consequences that would fall into the hands of Jiang Mingzi. Three-eyed eyebrows tightened. A decision was made. He drew his knife and dismembered himself. There is only a glimmer of life left. He wants to age through this. Until. Stagger the era in which Akiko is located, and then wake up. With the self-determination of the Three Eyes. Akiko is also aware. After killing a few manipulated golems, he fell into deep thought. I want to use a long time to boil this immortal monarch to death. Akiko knew what Three Eyes was thinking in an instant. But even if he temporarily interrupted the tracking of the Void Seal, his own injuries may never be questioned. It just so happened that he left the scroll for Gao Haoguang. It is specially designed to track and chase the air seal. Then let this mage become Huizai's poetry. History, you know how miserable this little girl is. His family has been sacrificed to zombies for generations, because their ancestors were sinners in the village. This woman's name is Bai Xiao. It is a person from the nearby Black Mountain village. Although he is still young, but he still can't escape the fate of being used as a sacrifice. Just as it was about to die in the jaws of zombies, was rescued by Gao Haoguang and the others who accidentally broke in. But the girl was not only grateful, even tied the two together and sacrificed them to zombies. Because if he doesn't, that is compensation. It will be the lives of all 322 people in their village. So he threatened to kill himself by biting his tongue, took Gao Haoguang and the others to Black Mountain Village. Along the way, Gao Haoguang listened to Bai Xiao before asking the weird ballad that was sung, but he said it was a nursery rhyme, and it has been spread in the village of Montenegro for thousands of years. Legend has it a long time ago. It was an even more chaotic thing than it is today. But the villagers of Montenegro village, deep in the mountains. But there is no outside world. Dare to ask for luxury. That's why. At that time, it was the only medicine bag in the village that could see a doctor. It is loved by more than 200 people in the village. They see it as a hero. But one day, there was a strange disease in the village. A strange disease that shouldn't exist in this world. But everyone who is infected with this disease will cause physical disability. Some have disappeared from their eyes. Some of them disappeared from their hands and feet. None of them are fatal, though. But it is also impossible to stay far from the village. From one patient to two at the beginning, and then more than 90. Half of the village's population is infected with it. In the midst of everyone's despair, the medicine man who went to the mountains to collect medicine returned. He said he had found a fresh medicine to cure the disease. Everyone believed in him, but he lied to everyone. It turns out that the elixir that Yao Lang refers to is his blood. And his blood turned all those who obeyed him into a pool of blood. There are 97 people in total. Nearly half of the population died in extreme fear and pain. Later, the epidemic spread in the village. In fact, they are all medicine wolves. It appeared in order to test the medicine on the living. After that, the medicine wolf left Haifeng village, disappeared without a trace. But there is a lot left. Word-of-mouth horror stories. And this medicine wolf is by Zhao's ancestor. It's called White Day. It is also because their ancestors owe it to the people in the village. It's the house of guilt. So from last year there was a demon master asking for a live-timer. Their family took on the responsibility of the sacrifice. This year, first by Xiao's father, and then his mother. They were sacrificed to zombies one after another. Until today, it was finally by Xiao's turn. But by Xiao, don't blame the villagers who sent him here. He only hated his ancestors thousands of years ago. But this has been passed down for thousands of years in Haifeng village. Is the legend passed down by word of mouth really the truth? Travel back more than 1,000 years. After a strange illness in Haifeng village, he asked for Lang. Bai Da and his friends see the mountains together. Look for herbs that can cure strange diseases. Unexpectedly, I met the Nirvana Master on the way. Just as it was about to die in the jaws of zombies, was rescued by Jiang Mingzi who was passing by. After seeing the magical powers of the immortals, Bai Da seemed to grasp the life-saving straw. Promised to be willing to serve Jiang Mingzi for the rest of his life. I just hope that he can save them from Black Mountain Village. After listening to Bai Da's description, Jiang Mingzi said that it was not a disease at all. It's just the usual Schwinn. Nirvana is the feeding of living people. And there are those who have mastered supernatural powers. You can use your own black blood to eat away at the lives of the living. They often take addiction. blood drops on water sources commonly used by mortals. If it is drunk by a mortal who is in good health, it won't have much of an impact. But if not, slowly drink the body. It will disappear part by piece, until it finally disappears without a trace. And the living who were eaten by the candied painted into a decree merge into the body of the black-blooded master nearby. Help them become stronger in their practice. After listening to Akiko's explanation, Baida instantly understood a lot. Here's where things happen. Before the village, someone has seen a monster with a giant eye on his forehead. Things haunt the neighborhood of the village. Before, the zombie that chased and killed Baida and the others was the same. But now it has been solved by Jiang Mingzi casually. Here's the thing. The immortal monarch who was bored was ready to leave. Bai was in a hurry. He spoke again and asked Akiko to save the Black Mountain village. Help the sick villagers to get back to their old days. But mortal life, old age, sickness and death have their own cause and effect. Akiko didn't want to interfere. But Baida is a rainbow fart master. As the saying goes, thousands of clothes are not worn. Under the output of Baidadan, Akiko's footsteps were stunned when he drifted away, came back and only collapsed a little. This is a zombie that has survived for thousands of years. In order to cultivate supernatural powers, he will be in his own blood, dripping into the water source of a nearby village. As long as you have drunk the water here, the body began to disappear one by one, until there is no trace. And these cannibalized living, eventually, it will be transformed into a decree, integrate into the body of the Nirvana Master and be in his practice. As the only medicine elder in the village who can see a doctor and grab medicine, Baida decided to go into the mountain with his friends. Look for herbs that can cure this disease. Unexpectedly, he met Nirvana's friend and died tragically. Baida was lucky to be rescued by the passing immortal June. After learning about Black Mountain Village from the White Mouth, after the symptoms of the epidemic are spreading, it will be clear to Mingzi that this is not a disease at all, but sure one. So he gave an elixir to Baida. This is a rare life-sustaining elixir. Just grind it into a powder and mix it into water. Let everyone who is damp and warm take a little. You can get back the lost parts of your body. Baida cautiously put away the pill. And then again, Akiko frantically output a rainbow body. Although I know it's a sycophant, but it can be seen that Xianjun is very useful. After that, Baida bowed solemnly to Jiang Mingzi. It is to prepare for farewell. Available before going back. He had to bury his friend's body first, in order to prevent the corpse from being picked up and eaten by wild beasts. He also disguises the atmosphere with herbs that can be sold for money. Jiang Mingzi glanced sideways. This little wolf is really a bad guy. It's just in this time of war. Killing people and mowing grass don't help. Morality has long since fallen. Can such a person really live? And yet at this moment, the energy of the three truths is restored in the same month. Time avoidance has been broken through again. He saw his disciple Gao Haoguang. He was taken to the village of Montenegro by the scroll. I even saw the ending of Baida. Jiang Mingzi, who is known as the first army by the world. At this moment, there was sadness and helplessness in his eyes. He watched silently for a long time. Wait until Baida is good. Friends finish the grave. Seeing Baida bow to himself again. When you're ready to leave. Jiang Mingzi suddenly stopped him. Then in Baida's puzzled gaze, I took out a jar of my own treasured century-old wine. He became a bowl of medicine, although there was still indifference in his eyes. But there seems to be something more. The immortal monarch raised his glass to the mortal Baida in front of him. Acquaintance is a kind of fate. Just use this century-old wineway rue to see off. Time passes. More than 1,000 years later, the village of Montenegro came. Seeing Bai Xiaoxiao return safely. The children in the village are very happy because of the ancestors of the white staff. Bai Xiaoxiao's family is very unpopular in the village. That's all there is to it. A little sister who is not deeply involved in the world. A few people had just entered the village. Was bumped into by an ant passing by. Bai Xiao just wanted to explain something, was broken by a scream from him. The great god roared with a lion's roar. For a while, Bai Xiao came back alive. The news spread throughout the village. The villagers of Montenegro began to gather here. Surrounded several people. A middle-aged man stepped out of the crowd, angry in front of him. This person is the head of this Black Mountain village. Bai Xiao wanted to say something, but when the words came to his lips, he lowered his head in shame. When the village chief saw this, he was directly slapped in the face. Also said that Bai Xiao is a greedy student, a stinky girl who is afraid of death. The offerings were sent to the back mountain. None of them came out alive. In the end, they even started to fight each other. The same was true of the onlookers. They make no secret of their ugly faces. Began to scold Bai Xiao for being shameless. Like its ancestors a minor scourge. The beasts of the whole village. Gao Haoguang, who was standing on the side, couldn't stand it. Only a coward would bully the weak. And cowards are not qualified to be called weakling. The village chief was still thinking about what Gao Haoguang meant by this. The next moment, he was regressed and confessed by the strange bombardment. Look at this alien gray-haired boy. Actually dared to the village chief nearby. The villagers were immediately outraged. The first few even shot directly. I want to teach this hairy boy a lesson. But fortunately, Gao Haoguang is also a punisher. On weekdays, it's all zombies. Now I'm sorry mortals, naturally, it's not a problem. Seeing this kid so difficult. The village chief ordered someone to kidnap Bai Xiao and threatened with his life. Let Gao Haoguang and others be arrested. At night, after learning about everything that happened in the back mountain, the people of the village unanimously decided, sacrifice 3 people together to the Lord. In these chaotic times, human life is like a sword of grass. From time to time, there are also horse thieves passing by, come to the village to do evil. Just when the village of Montenegro was in turmoil, a Nirvana corpse appeared near here. He is also a man of great faithfulness. As long as the surrounding villages regularly offer offerings, he was the one who blessed the nearby villages. But at present, the sacrifice is being destroyed by high consumption. So they decided to trap a few of them together. I just want to be able to calm the anger of the listed adults. This is a zombie that has survived for thousands of years. Although he feeds on the vitality of the living, but he is also a trustworthy person. In these chaotic times, the law of the jungle with people, far more than zombies eating people. You don't know which day. Suddenly a bunch of horse thieves will come running, destroy the entire village. In order for the village to be able to be here soldiers, comfort in the chaotic times, decided from the people of the village of Montenegro. Regular offerings of living human sacrifices are made to zombies. And he respectfully called him Guru, only that it may shelter their peace. The zombie accepted the crowd's request. So far, the Black Mountain village has gained temporary comfort. Like a domestic animal in captivity. Survive in these troubled times. Survived. The way of the group of people in front of them to survive in the troubled times. Although Gao Haoguang is ashamed, but he couldn't find a reason to refute it. Suddenly in the sky behind Gao Haoguang, gradually, the imprint of the 3 truths dharmas emerged. 3. The true same-month order is open again. Time avoidance is opened. Akiko quietly looked at everything in front of her. Gao Haoguang spoke again. Livestock without walls know to escape. Haven't you ever thought about leaving here? This sentence completely angered the village chief. They have lived here for thousands of years. Generations have lived by hard work. Get out of here in these troubled times. They have no ability to earn a living. Where can they survive? What's more, the guru has great powers. There are 3 villages that support him. This year. I haven't heard of it. Who will escape this place alive? With that, he turned his gaze to Bai Xiao again. Compared with the villagers of Black Mountain Village who were killed by his ancestors. It's dozens of times more than the guru. 1,000 years ago, it was his ancestor who wanted Lang. Bai to use strange medicine. took away the credibility of 97 people in the village of Montenegro. Every family here has a white man's life beheaded, since it is a debt. What's wrong with his white little family's life? Heard the narration of the head of the village of Montenegro through the three truths of the same month. Zhang Mingzi, who knew all this, looked sideways slightly. He looked deeply. Next to him, the body of a friend from the same village is being buried, and Gao Haoguang on the side. But he was angry at the ignorance of the people of this village. At present, Bai Xiaoxiao has no other family members. If he dies, after you, do you want to sacrifice your own family? This question suddenly made the village chief and several people feel a burst of rain. They naturally understand. It's really that time. They will go and catch some outsiders passing by. The sacrifice is high and the light is angry. The gang finally showed their ugly faces. What owes life to life? It's all just for their own weakness. It's just an excuse to make an excuse. The darkness in my heart is punctured. The village chief left in a hurry. They can't wait for Master Shi to appear sooner at this moment. Eat this sharp-toothed gray-haired boy. It's a foregone conclusion. Bai Xiaoxiao silently shed tears. It's not that I'm afraid of death. Instead, I feel that it is difficult to escape the blame. Obviously it's because of myself. Only then did Gao Haoguang and a few people get involved. But they still helped themselves. It made him feel very guilty. But even in the face of such fear, Gao Haoguang still looked calm. He asked Bai Xiaoxiao if he wanted to go outside the mountain to have a look. White little catalog reminiscence. He had heard from his father, who occasionally went out to the mountains to collect medicine. At the end of the mountain there is an endless sea. An endless city as far as the eye can see. There are many, many things that he wants to do that he can't even think of. People there shouldn't know. Their family is guilty. The voice fell. Suddenly, a sigh came from above the heads of the three of them. And the sound came out. It's a zombie with giant red eyes. This is probably the most principled zombie I've ever seen. His creed was that debts must be paid. Kindness and righteousness will be repaid. Look at the zombies that suddenly appeared. Everyone was shocked. Even Mingzi is a directory difference. He crossed the river of time through 3 stitches in the same month. Looking at the 3 eyes more than 1,000 years later. Is it really this guy? It is the self-realized essence just now. So what to do? This syntax is to evade his pursuit. Only a ray of life was left for himself. With the words of cultivation, even if it's more than 1,000 years later, it is categorically impossible to return to this. Did he have an accomplice to help him heal his injuries? First June was a little puzzled. The head of Black Mountain Village on the side was stubborn. Come forward and bow respectfully. Speaking of the guru, the 2 men and the sacrifices are all handed over to you. But the 3 eyes scratched their heads depressedly. Providence doesn't just make people. I don't even let go of nirvana. After that, Sanyan began to introduce himself. He had long forgotten his name. As for the title of guru, it was the villagers who worshipped him who rebelled. He didn't like it. He prefers to be called the 3rd master by others. It's a little more intimate. And his creed is that debts must be paid. After that, I saw him pull out the matching robe around his waist. Prepare to take action against Gao Haoguang and the others who offended him. At this critical moment, Bai Xiaoxiao shouted as hard as he could. 3-eyed cut down the strength of the 2's knives. The real voice stopped. At this scene, even the 2 brothers were stunned for a moment. They don't understand what this syntax is trying to do. But 3 eyes ignored them and put their knives away. Bai Xiaoxiao, who looked at the depths, said, "Stop. Let's be kind to the Buddha." Then he began to introduce himself again. He said he was already in the world. It has been immortal for more than 1,600 years. Although be careful with the eye, but of good character. Never kill for fun. The only entertainment are rather good. It's just looking at a small sapling. Day by day, it grows taller and thicker. Let's compare who can live longer. After becoming a Dharma, he also awakened a gifted prodigy. After that, the 3 eyes raised their hands. He pointed to the star-red tree at the center of his eyebrows. The name of this tree is Wasabara Shintum. The tree method cast by this tree. Hit a living or dead person. Will all become his puppets. The caster can control the golem's secondary purpose at will, but unfortunately, it can only control the sub-purpose. So it's still better for the dead. The caster can also use this wooden ring with a golem. As long as the caster's consciousness is alive, of course. Even if the body is torn apart. This supernatural ability will still be in the hands of the caster. The crowd of onlookers was said to himself by Three Eyes. I was a little stunned. It's not so much that the villain talks a lot. It's more about who he's dealing with. On behalf of what? It's after talking about some of my past. Three-Eyed suddenly stared, turned his gaze to Bai Xiao in front of him. Your name is Bai Xiao, right? There was an ancestor called Bai Da. What do you think? We are white little silver teeth and birds. It's the monster in front of you. Took the lives of his parents. He hated him and wanted to avenge his parents. Three-eyed eyes drooped slightly, rather than remain indifferent. Nirvana is the harvesting of the lives of the living. Come and wrest the supernatural powers and continue life. We think it's right, and your father and mother died at our hands. It's only natural that you hate us and want revenge. But there are some things that we still have to be clear. Let's be clear. Because it is not the book of heaven. The book of the earth also. Then, Three Eyes is talking to everyone about a hare. A story born a long, long time ago. The story takes place in a place located deep in the mountains. Inside a village called Montenegro. There is a medicine man named Bai Da. The white big book is a big word. I don't know a few. Simple, but perennial in the village, sick and without a doctor. With a good nature, he spent half his life learning to read. I studied medicine and treated many people. It is also respected by many people. Bai Da has an old seventh son. There is also a sister who married into the next village. The family lives outside the village of Montenegro. That year, there were some anomalies in the village of Montenegro. Bai Da felt that it was a strange disease. Every family in the village. All appeared. Cases in which a part of the body gradually disappears. Until now, the village of Montenegro is not small. That one handle was actually the result of the three-eyed supernatural powers. Because the cultivation of the life of a living person becomes stronger. This is the path of nirvana. Later, Bai Da discovered herbs that have a strong and juvenile effect. This can be alleviated. He walked all the mountains around him. Collected all. But it's not enough. There are too many villagers who have suffered from the epidemic. He went farther into the mountains to search. That's half a year. But he didn't expect it himself. He really got the cure for the disease. He was very excited and returned to the village of Black Mountain. I thought it was a hardship after half a year. Finally, we can buy everyone's peace. You can go home. What he saw was a scene that looked like hell. Mother. His wife and son were hanged in front of their home. Do you know what human hunger is? This is one located deep in the mountains. An isolated village. Here almost. Someone in every household has contracted a strange disease. Sick people. The body begins to fade away from a certain area. At the moment, the villagers of Montenegro village do not know yet. This is actually a reference they have to be zombies. Blood-contaminated water sources. As a result, the Bai family lives outside the village of Black Mountain. Because they drink different water from other villagers. So their home became the only one who has not been infected with a medical disease. In the White Big go to the mountains. For infected villagers. Within half a year of looking for life-saving herbs, some messages began to appear in the village. They began to be suspicious. Why did this disease not affect the Bai family? Why do they have healthy hands and feet? Some people say that Bai Da often researches strange medicines. They even test drugs on animals. They began to be suspicious. The reason why I became like this. It is also the result of the White Big drug test. And Bai Da disappeared for so long. It is estimated that he has already died outside the chaotic mountain. Ignorance and jealousy aroused the hatred in the hearts of the villagers. They look at it. Turn to the old and the young in the white family. Have you heard? Just eat the body parts of Baida's family. Our vanished bodies will grow. It's been half a year. Finally, I found the first white big in the mountains. Returning full of excitement. He thought about what he had been through. Finally, we can exchange everyone's peace. But when he returned home, he saw his own family. He was hanged in front of his home. The former corpse was even more mutilated. My mother's eyeballs were bent. The wife's internal organs were cut off. The son's hands and feet were cut off. Heartrending stab. The big white pupils were instantly bloody. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Tears of hatred poured out. The first thing that came to his mind was the bandits. Or a passing soldier. But there were still some children of conscience in the village who told him. All of this was done by the villagers of Montenegro. The sun and humanity. It's the most invisible, unsightly thing in the world. Yakuro, who knows everything. I can no longer suppress the monstrous hatred in my heart. He wanted revenge. But immortal. Can you do anything to so many people? Even if Baida tries his best. In exchange for a serious injury that almost died on the spot. He escaped. The only thing that sustains it is still breathing is hatred. This hatred. It even kept him going for days without a trick. But he knew he could never get revenge on his own. He also knew he was slowly dying. Until he seemed to hear some kind of call. He dragged his half-dead body. I came to a cave. This is where the three-eyed realization comes in. At this moment, the three eyes have fallen into a deep sleep. Before, in order to avoid the pursuit of Akiko, he used his supernatural powers to cut himself off, leaving only a wisp behind. Vitality is an incurable wound, even if it is tens of thousands of years. It is also categorically impossible to return to the past. What awaits the three eyes is almost endless darkness and loneliness. But he never imagined it. He who brought light to himself at that time. It would be immortal. Baida was dying at the moment. He took out the elixir that Akiko had given him. This was originally requested by the villagers of Montenegrin village. And as long as he eats this pill at this moment, we'll be able to live. But he didn't. He gave the elixir to Three Eyes. Gave this scourge to the source of his whole village. It was this pill that gave Three Eyes healing. You hoped that he would ask Baida about his own reasons. But Baida said that he wanted him to continue what he had done before. Because it can be his revenge. After that, Baida talked about everything that happened in the village. Originally, this was for Three Eyes. It's just not an overt evil in the world. But Baida has the grace to continue his life. It cannot be seen as an ordinary mortal. So the white big hatred is three-eyed. Next, he used his natural powers. Kaihara Mame took control of Hakuta's corpse. He wants Ungong to complete his revenge with his own hands. Thereupon, Three Eyes controlled Baida and returned to Black Mountain Village again. Speed up with supernatural powers. Absorbed those who were truly guilty. Even if it is absorbed too quickly, it can be harmful to the body. But this time, he was not afraid to practice, but had to pay his debts. After that, Three-Eyed Goodsheng buried the body of Baida, and Baida their family. It's only his sister's line. There are descendants to follow. In order not to cut off the incense. So still let their descendants trust. I didn't expect this scene later. I still lived back in Black Mountain Village. That's the story of Three Eyes. It is also the antecedent of the grievances in Black Mountain Village. The sun and humanity. It's the most invisible thing in the world. But I dare to look directly at the sun. But he didn't dare to look directly at human nature. After listening to the Three Eyes, he repeated the preamble of the legend of the White Day. Always stand on the moral high ground. The villagers, who presented themselves as victims, panicked. This is with their families. The things that have been handed down from each family are not in harmony. And as a bystander, the three truths are recorded. I was also angry at the result. Even Jiang Mingzi, who is the ancestor of the monarch, cannot be immune. Silence for a while. Three-Eyed will gaze. Turn to the only remaining white descendant in the world, by Xiao Xiao. And is the death of your father and mother at our hands the consequence? It turns out that the three eyes, although it will be grabbed from time to time on weekdays, villagers or horse thieves, come and enjoy, but it will deliberately avoid the existence of it. The village of the descendants of the white great. But I can't imagine that God will make people, the older generation from several surrounding villages. I saw that there was a nirvana master who was killing, in order not to bring evil into their own homes, deliberately found the three eyes. It is said that sacrifices can be made at regular intervals, to exchange their security, for the three eyes who were born lazy. It's really a good thing that you don't want to say no. Afterwards, they took the isolated people of the village, people who are not good for them. The man who wanted to seize his land and property sent it, until Bai Xiao Xiao's parents were also sent over. Three-Eyed didn't know that this was the descendant of Bai Da. They didn't deserve to die, but they did die from the head of the three eyes. After speaking, a sigh came from the three eyes. Since he is a descendant of Bai Da, then you can't be caught by ordinary people. Then he looked at Bai Xiao Xiao in front of him. Everything that was just said. Is it the evidence you want to see? Wants to destroy us. Avenge your father's mother. Wanting to be unjust for their ancestors. Do you avenge the injustice suffered by your family in this life? Just say what you think. We will do our creed, and we will pay our debts. After listening to everything from beginning to end, Bai Xiao Xiao was already numb, reminiscing about the past. At that time, my father and mother were still there. A family of three chatted about what happened in the village at the dinner table. Although the life is ordinary, but it's better to be warm. But suddenly one day, the village chief led people to Bai Xiao Xiao's house. They pointed at their father and shouted angrily, "This is a debt that your ancestors owe to our whole village. As long as you are alone as a sacrifice, it is cheap for you." The father did not resist, because he felt that as long as he was poor, can keep his wife and daughter. He laughed and talked to Bai Xiao Xiao. "I'm just going on a long trip." But after a long time, he did not return. A home for New Oda. Only the increasingly silent daughter remained, and the mother who forced a smile every day. But they didn't expect their father's departure. Just the beginning of the tragedy. The village chief brought someone to the door again. That day, mother smiled and said that he was going to see his father. Also said after this time, the people of the village will no longer embarrass them. Before parting, the mother told Bai Xiao Xiao not to blame the villagers, because it is a debt of human life owed by their family. When you die, you pay off your debts. Hell is empty. The devil is on earth. Mother's words. The ugliness of the human heart. The injustice of the world. All washed away the little reason of the white. He wanted to ask about the more than 320 people in Black Mountain Village. Who owes the debt to whom? Three-Eyed raised his hand and pinched the tree at the beginning of Mei Xingqiu. There was a blinding glow. The next moment, the star-red ring Adrielwood. It was in the riders. Gao Hao's lightsaber stabbed hurriedly and shouted. He wanted Bai Xiao Xiao to calm down. On what basis? Bai Xiao Xiao's tone was indifferent. Blurted out a word without the slightest hesitation. Three-Eyed awarded the ring Yuan True Eye in his hand to Bai Xiao Xiao. It's also like the grace of the year. This time, he also wanted Bai Xiao Xiao to hold it with his own hands. A sea of blood feud. This is probably the most principled zombie I've ever seen. It's just because the benefactor's descendants want him to die. He cut himself to his own swordman. Providence makes people. Millennial Debt Survey. After Bai Xiao Xiao said that he wanted to take revenge, Three-Eyed did not hesitate to look at his true former. Awarded to Bai Xiao Xiao. This is the natural supernatural power of the three eyes. At the same time, it also carries his memory. At this moment, every word of hatred from the ancestor Bai Xiao Xiao seemed to be able to hear it with her own ears. Really, truly, they owe us a 1,000-year blood debt. But why is it that we are the ones who pay the debt? A line of blood and tears slipped from the corners of Bai Xiao's eyes. Three-Eyed eyes drooped. again in his hoarse voice. Speak of our supernatural powers and memories. You took it. You should know too. As long as our consciousness is alive, the owner of this supernatural power can only be our white master. Descendants, you know what to do. Come and avenge your father. Bai Xiaoxiao was silent for a while. Finally, spit out a sentence that you judge yourself. Again, looking at Bai Xiaoxiao's back, there is a little complexity in the three-eyed eyes. It's really a causal cycle. Retribution is not happy. The last time I cut myself was to make a living. And now, it is to repay the life debt he owes to the Bai family. Only this time there seems to be no reason to stay. But he didn't regret it. This is his principle. Debts must be paid. With a burst of knife light, Three-Eyed's body was torn apart in an instant. Didn't leave yourself the slightest leeway. There is enmity and enmity in the evil spike. The world stops at fame and fortune. Now we don't owe you the Bai family. These were the last words that Three Eyes said before he died. Dying, he stared into the mountains in the distance. There's a giant tree there. He grew taller than the trees around him. It was Three Eyes more than 1,000 years ago, planted just when it was ready to move. He woke up every few hundred years after that, staring at the trees in a daze. It's the only pleasure Three Eyes has on weekdays. Watch the little saplings grow day by day. Compare who can live longer. It's a pity that he's still lost after all. With the consciousness of the Three Eyes completely vanished, Bai Xiaoxiao mastered the true tomb of the Ring Garden. At this moment, he wants to give the cloth palace that the Bai family has given for generations. Flee back one by one. Gao Haoguang and the others wanted to come forward to persuade them. Available for 11 nights. Countless star-red spells emanated from between his eyebrows. Suddenly, the entire sky was dyed blood-red, without the slightest hesitation. Bai Xiaoxiao controls the villagers of the Ring Plains Truewood phase. Raid trigger. The moment the red light touched the villagers, and it fell into the bodies of the people, the next moment the villagers found out in horror. Although consciousness is clear, but he lost control of his body. They watched as they wielded their knives. Frank to the flesh and blood of the deep. Kiss to the lover who was in love with each other. Frank with his brotherly friend. Time. Endless despair permeated the entire Black Mountain village. The sound of sand shouting and crying were endless. This human tragedy made Gao Haoguang and the others a little unbearable. It is not a pity that the villagers died. He didn't want to save. But after all, this is human life. Although knowing how to choose is wrong. But the two still took action to subdue the runaway villagers. Bai Xiaoxiao asked the two of them in a cold tone, "Why do you want to help them? Could it be their ancestors? And what they're doing now doesn't deserve to die. Shouldn't it be?" Bai Xiaoxiao repeated again, as if asking one's own heart. Shouldn't it really be complicated with a highlight consumption? He had no answer in his mind. That's when it happened. The second brother on the side came to take a few prisoners. At the moment, Bai Xiaoxiao is only a preliminary prodigy. He doesn't have the strong body of a mage. Together, the two might be able to try to subdue him. As he spoke, the head of Black Mountain Village stepped forward and bowed respectfully. At the moment they are really afraid. Whispered begging for the protection of the two of them. Seeing this, the people behind him hurriedly spoke up. But between their words, without mentioning the mistakes he has made, they said that Bai Xiaoxiao was a demon. Gao Haoguang was really disgusted. A punch blasted away the village chief beside him. He was silent for a long time. Struggled to say to Bai Xiaoxiao from a human standpoint, "Most of them don't deserve to die. The village chief will be at your disposal. Can you calm down and talk?" But Bai Xiaoxiao's answer was, "Everyone in the village of Montenegro is going to die." The voice was still weak, but with determination. A sentence of retribution wants to be written off. It's a world-class plan. Gao Haoguang said that if the patient is himself, he's going to want to kill everyone here, too. He wondered if he was qualified to stand here. It's really worth it for the sake of these animals. Do you want to fight with Bai Xiaoxiao? How he should be good. What kind of deep hatred is it? Actually let a girl ruthlessly extinguished more than 300 people in the village. At this moment, Bai Xiao once again sent the real tomb of the borrower. The monstrous stars are red and bloody. The sword trumpet light on the side of the scroll pinched the captive with one hand. But there are a lot of thoughts in my head. He didn't want to stop Bai Xiao. He wanted his revenge. Kill all these brutes. You can stand in the shoes of people. It can really make so many people. Was taken in front of his own eyes. There seems to be a lot going on in this world. You can't use right and wrong, good and evil to measure. It's all about the different positions you occupy. Gao Haoguang suddenly felt, I don't have the qualifications to judge all of this at all. It's like this. Bai Xiao will sink forever. Why all this happened? If all this had never happened, if those from 1,000 years ago had never existed, Gao Haoguang suddenly thought of someone. Jiang Mingzi, the patriarch of the Three Truths method. If he's there, can it all be saved? And is it possible to change this cause and effect? The sky passes through 3 needles in the same month. Jiang Mingzi, who saw all this, there was a slight solemnity in his eyes. Just now, he's in his own place. 1,000 years later, the little head grandson is on the body. I sensed a hint of causal green. In fact, as early as Gao Haoguang was in the 3rd law. When using the captives he gave, Akiko sensed a connection. Time can't isolate the taste. It is a natal prodigy of cause and effect. But Akiko has one thing that he doesn't understand. Why a prodigy who is highly depleted? You can adjust the well-being and danger of others. Able to refine the blessings with his own hands. There are only 2 possible ways to play. First, he personally performed it. And the other is almost impossible to exist. Unless it's Gao Haoguang's talent in Fufa. It's hard to happen in another year. And he has been cultivating on this path for countless years. And also to Jiang Mingzi's supernatural powers. There is a certain understanding. Maybe Gao Haoguang really has this talent. But none of the rest. Akiko let out a sigh. He didn't know. The mask that appeared above Gao Haoguang's head at this moment. A shadow of anxiety that only he could perceive. What it represents. It is because of the appearance of this thing. Changed the captives in the hands of his little apprentice. Some superfluous. The things that hinder the flow of mana are disappearing. It's like something is modifying the captive. In just a few breaths, the modification has been completed. The fat yellow man glanced over. Gao Haoguang, who never made a move. He was really a little unbearable. Still, seeing that the little junior brother was still expressionless, he was stunned in place. Bai Xiao looked at each other. A few rays broke through the defenses and came in an instant. The fat man's figure flashed, and he dodged nimbly. Look back. Only to find out. Gao Haoguang didn't seem to react. Let the blindness of blood fall on you. The fat man was stunned for a moment. Just when he was out of his mind, another bloodblind fell on him. Their bodies are instantly out of control. Is it deliberately not hiding? Still unintentional? Or maybe it's both. All this may only be known to Gao Haoguang himself. Akiko glanced at him with a little meaning. The inner conflict made Gao Haoguang escape. It's the wrong choice anyway. Maybe he wanted to be a bystander. Let's see how it all ends. Even if they face their own fates. Helplessly manipulated. A torrent of blood enveloped the entire village. The killing is nearing its end. Bai Xiao dismissed Gao Hao. The magic on the 2 of them. It's over. He looked up at the starry sky, muttering, it's like talking to my father. Nyang also has an ancestor white tree, talking about everything he does. Suddenly, a childish cry rang out. It's like a bucket of ice water, dragged on by Xiao's heart. His mind went blank at the moment. Although the great revenge is avenged, but my heart seemed to ache even more. When using supernatural powers, Bai Xiao deliberately avoided the children in the village. Causal cycles. Everything is in reincarnation. Parents of these children, killed by Xiao's relatives. And now he has also become a killer. The murderers of these children's loved ones. The children cried out in despair. They want to let Bai Xiaoxiao live a long life. But Bai Xiaoxiao just turned back numbly, looking at the ass that follows him every day. Call his sister's friend. Before, only children liked him. Now only the child hates him. The children are immature. But the hysterical voice echoed in his ears. They're going to kill this monster that has slaughtered the whole village. Avenge the death of a loved one. Bai Xiaoxiao didn't have any motivation. I watched the children rush at me with knives. He turned back to the knife he was trying to stop. Hao Guang smiled. It seems that if you say it again, it will be regarded as paying off the debt. The position is different. Right and wrong are different. It may also be a relief to end here. How to define right and wrong, good and evil. The girl avenges her parents' blood. More than 300 people in the village were slaughtered. Slaughtered the children's loved ones. They cried hysterically. The child's immature face was full of hatred at the moment. They stabbed the girl with all their might. Haven't hid yet. Let the children pierce their bodies. The world is too muddy. Human indifference. Dead to all feeling. Many deserve to die but don't. Many people don't deserve to die, they just die. Looking at the girl who fell. Gao Haoguang's eyes were full of grief and indignation. He could see it. Bai Xiaoxiao no longer has the will to live. Don't. Did he really feel that death was the best destination? Gao Haoguang was unwilling. He wanted to take Bai Xiaoxiao to see the outside world. Places he longed for a long time but couldn't imagine. He adjusted. Said to the child next to him with a good feeling. He's dead. We'll take him to another place for burial. He does not belong to the village of Montenegro. Before execution, Huang Erbua left some money for the children. Are these kids at fault? He doesn't know, or others are not qualified to judge. The 3 truths in the air are the same month. Akiko directory business. He had vaguely guessed. What does this little apprentice want to do? As Gao Haoguang threw Fu Lu out of his hand, several mystical energies began to condense in the air. Finally, in the sky above a few people, a huge golden copper coin was formed. This is what you do. Looking at Huang Er's bones on the side, his skin was numb. The junior brother only used 4 prisoners. Abel. It's a lot stronger than his 7-card combination. The 2 of them seriously injured by Xiaoxiao, who was dying. Placed on top of the copper coin. The grievances here are over. In the eyes of the children, Bai Xiaoxiao was dead. Once upon a time, he turned into a divine rainbow and flew out of the mountain. Although Bai Xiaoxiao was deeply injured at this moment, but he was supernatural by the 3-eyed supernatural powers. Hung the last shred of life. As long as he wants to live, there will be a way for him to live. The 3 stitches in the air in the same month deplete the energy. Turned into a quaint piece of Akiko again. A sigh was heard. He understood. Gao Haoguang wanted to save that person, and there was nothing left. The little girl with the voice. Maybe I'm intervening at this moment. Can stop all this from starting out ridiculously. But the idea itself is really ridiculous. The year is 1906. Gao Haoguang and the others hurried all the way towards the outside of the mountain. During this time, Bai Xiaoxiao also woke up from a coma. It's his body. The extra internal organs, including the heart, were injured. Even if you have 3 eyes, no matter how deep your magical powers are. And still not long. Bai Xiaoxiao must be allowed to die. Otherwise, it will be futile to find a solution in time. Along the way, in order not to let Bai Xiaoxiao fell into a coma here. Gao Haoguang told him a lot. Things outside the mountains. A lot. A lot of things that even his dad didn't know. The world beyond the mountain was bigger than he had imagined. Back to the twilight moon. Facing the early sun. If Bai Xiaoxiang is willing. Perhaps you can leave behind the drowsy darkness behind you. Embrace the light ahead. Light or dark. Life or death. It's just a little white thought. In the warm morning sun, several people rushed out of the mountain. A strange Wangming that I have never heard of in my life attracted the attention of Shiro's little one. The sound was made by a nearly dozens of meters long tin box with black smoke emitting. Gao Haoguang told him that the tin box was called a train. It can carry hundreds of people at once. Then the two took Bai Xiao to see the sea. He also knew that he was in this world. It has a kind of iron sheet the size of a small mountain. It is rumored that by taking him, you can go to the other side of Wanghai. There are people of all kinds of colors. I don't know how it compares to the Book of Mountains and Seas. Which is more magical? Finally, Hai Haoguang, take Bai Xiao to a huge city. He spoke softly to the girl beside him. The world beyond the mountains is not what it used to be. Just live. Every year changes a lot. No one. You can imagine what it will be like in the future. Bai Xiao, don't you want to see it? As long as you say something, you can live. Bai Xiao didn't answer. The rim between the eyebrows is slightly opened. He silently looked at the one here. Bustling streets. Crowds of people. There are also all kinds of life outside this mountain. Gao Haoguang didn't bother him. Silently walked over to a boulder. It's like you've made a decision, and that's it. As long as he doesn't want to die. As long as he is willing to live. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe the day after tomorrow. As long as it's the day when Akiko appears. He will ask for Akiko at any cost. Be sure to make him thousands of years ago. Buried here. It's a continuation that only the great supernatural can have. Fate. Since he will be buried. Then you can take it yourself now. Manhwa is still desperately begging. Because today I must marry. Master the present. In vain, the future is taken by desire. There are already definite facts. Can it really be changed by intervening in cause and effect? Silently read Bai Dao as well. 1,000 years later, the end of the white little one. Akiko also felt a little uneven. It is easy to kill people and save people. The little girl who had no life. Maybe saved. It's just that his fate is undecided. But the beginning of it all. There are already results waiting for you. So there is no way to save it. At this moment, Bai Dao had already bought his friend's corpse. He bowed solemnly to the immortal monarch again. Seeing Bai Dao, he was about to leave. Akiko stopped him. And take out a jar of 100 years of wine from your own collection. 1,000-year-old grudge against its Bai family. Akiko felt sad and indignant. It's meant to be. Even as a person who tried the 10,000 laws immortal monarch. There is nothing to be done. Even though the supernatural powers are unparalleled. But he is also the same as Gao Haoguang. Just a bystander. After that, he gave Bai Desheng a bowl of wine. And opened his mouth to say Bai Da. Acquaintance is a kind of fate. Use this century-old wine to see you off. Akiko's eyes are full of complexity. There are thousands of thoughts in my heart. Perhaps paying enough price could affect the UK. But even if it's a personnel emperor. For Bin Xianjun. It won't be much more important than the float. What's more, it's just a medicine man. Maybe it's indifference. Maybe it's for yourself. Find an excuse outside of the situation. There were tears in Bai Da's eyes. Raise a glass in return to Xianjun Yaoling. White big. For the 218 people of Black Mountain Village, for the Bai family. A good man will not die well. Is it the fault of man, or the way of the world? Obviously just a mere mortal. At this moment, it really made the immortal monarch shake a little. He raised his hand to the fading figure. Maybe just wish Bai Da to go home early. Everything will be saved. Although knowing that cause and effect cannot be changed. But Akiko still made a move. The next moment, a flash of thunder appeared. Interrupted the sleeve of his prodigy robe. Exploded. The power of terror. Leaves a few marks on Akiko's hands. This is a punishment for violating the law of cause and effect. The fact that there is already an end cannot be changed. Even if it's as strong as an immortal, it can't do it. If it hurts, it's a sobering up. The name will be sighed. Then he looked in the direction of Bai Da's disappearance. The left hand clenched into a fist and cast a wisp. The year is 1906. Gao Haoguang dug up the burial in front of him. But he didn't see the pill left by Jiang Mingzi. This result made Gao Haoguang's heart like ashes. He is confident that he can do it in the coming time. Jiang Mingzi who seeks the past. Bury the elixir here. But why can't I dig it myself? Gao Haoguang glanced sideways at Bai Xiaoxiao behind him. He thought of a possibility. It's not that I can't ask for the elixir. It's that Bai Xiaoxiao doesn't want to live. Because he's going to die today. So no matter how Gao Haoguang seeks his name in the future, none of it will make sense. The world beyond the mountains is wonderful. There are many, too many differences. It's just that Bai Zhao's heart already has a home. He had a place he wanted to go more. Before dying, Bai Xiaoxiao said sorry to Gao Haoguang. Thank you again. I'm sorry I got the two involved. Thank you to them for showing me the world beyond the mountains. He was happy. Finally, it's time to take care of yourself. Bai Xiaoxiao lost her breath. The world is beautiful. It's just that Bai Xiaoxiao no longer has any worries. There is no destination in the heart. No matter how beautiful a place is, it is desolate. Cause and effect cannot be changed. Even if he has supernatural powers, can only be a bystander. In the end, Gao Haoguang will be Bai Xiaoxiao, buried in a place where you can overlook the whole city. Let him see what the world will look like in the future. This is a magical Japanese style. The contents of the text. Only by the three true. In the same month, only those who approve it can see it. 2020 AD. In the second Dharma of the Three Truths, a teenager is pouring through its contents. When he finished reading the Haoguang Patriarch, after the deeds of the Black Mountain Village recorded, therefore, there is a lament for the cruelty of fate. Is it true that the world cannot fight against it? He doesn't think so. Because of the teacher's warranty. 3 stitches with the same leap order. It was born to fight against fate. Merely. I haven't been able to find a way to use it. Subsequently, the boy continued to look at the Japanese style in his hand. The boy in Sanchuan town was shocked. Because if nothing else, places mentioned in Japanese style. It's the city of Sanchuan where I'm now. Could it be that Patriarch Haoguang came here more than 100 years ago? Just when he was wondering, suddenly, behind him came a woman's voice. Broken heart. Are you secretly studying behind my sister's back? The boy turned back. There were 2 heavy black eyes on his thin face. The circle looked a little haggard. And the woman who claims to be her senior sister. It is the 221st generation master of this 3-needle method. Saturday Sunny Girl plays. He stared at the hands of the little junior brother behind his back. Broken chains. Suddenly, his eyes were empty, and he dodged left and right. Seeing that the young man is so dishonest, Saturday Ching pondered for a moment and decided to use a special move. I saw him snort coldly, directly lifted the shirt off the broken star chain and called it a hooligan. Hurriedly cover your eyes with a book. In its hands, and a piece of quaint armor. It is the same month of the 3 truths. It turns out that these 2 kinds of teacher warranty. In fact, it was Duan Xinglian who stole it out of his senior sister's room. But now it's exposed. He asked his senior sister directly, "Can you borrow it for 2 days to study on your own?" Saturday is full of doubts. There wasn't a word in that day. He didn't know what to study. But that's half the story. He seemed to realize something. Gaze at Duan Xinglian. Can you see the words in the sun? After getting Duan Xinglian's affirmative reply, Saturday loved directory trance. He had heard about the senior brother in the faction before. Senior sister mentioned it. The contents of this trumpet. Only those who are recognized by the 3 truths in the same month. To be able to see. Chun Ying's moment. He agreed to Duan Xinglian's request. However, there are 2 conditions. One is to give him a massage later. It's going to take an hour longer. And the second is, he wanted to know that Duan Xinglian was studying these. What you want to do. Speaking of which, Saturday's sunny look revealed the people. Duan Xinglian was silent for a while. Finally said his purpose. He wanted to get it from it. Slay the power of 737 seekers. Saturday, Qing calmly looked at the little junior brother in front of him. But in fact, his heart was happy. Flowers are the same. But in order to maintain the high-profile character of the senior sister, he just waved his hand casually. Turn around and go to work. Before leaving, he specially instructed Duan Xinglian to practice. Don't stand up again. Secretly learn this kind of animal behavior. The purpose of letting him go to school. It's to have more girlfriends. Speaking of the three-needle method, the master of the door. This has always been an unreliable tune. What generation did it start with? And at this moment, it is in the timeline where Jiang Mingzi is. 25 years ago in 525 A.D. Transform Akiko into a female Dharmakaya. Seduce a few officers and soldiers who are doing evil in Sanchuan town. A group of patriarchs shouted that they were not insects while running. It's the stinky man slave who hates the stinky man today. Talking about hate. But you have a very happy expression. What's going on? But the more he asked, the more excited the officers and soldiers who followed behind. But then this little lady is not running. It's a little too fast. You chase me after the hero. All. They came to a mountain shrouded in mist. Several officers and soldiers paused. This seems to be the rumored ominous thing in the army. Already, several brothers have disappeared in this vicinity. Seeing a few people hesitated. He glanced back at the patriarch. The weakness of myopia between the eyebrows and eyes. It can be said that I saw Yelyin. I have to say that he is too ruined. The bodies of officers and soldiers were instantly taken over by the lower body. Call me what kind of top I want. Jiang Mingzi continued to lead a few people to run forward. The mouth shouted perfunctorily that there was an immortal chief to save the slave family. But no one has appeared. It made him feel a little bored. I saw it snap its fingers. The heads of the few people behind him are moving. At this moment, Jiang Mingzi has come to the outside of the mist. That's the goal of his trip. He will take this place out of this world. Lethe Tree Temple. At that time, it was one of the 21 strongest Dharma-seeking sects. But today it ushered in an uninvited guest. He flew and stood in front of the mountain gate. A cold voice was accompanied by supernatural powers. Spread throughout the mountains. Listen up. The purpose of the prison army's coming. It is to erase the Lethe Tree Temple from this world. People are so arrogant. It made all the disciples in the courtyard feel angry. Begin to spit fragrant in your mouth. Ignore Akiko directly. Continue in a certain direction within the Lethe Tree Temple. The opening is for the sake of our many years of friendship. This immortal monarch will not kill you ninja, but they will all be abolished. Clear your memories and become mortal. After today, there will be no more Lethe Tree Courtyard in this world, and at the same time as passing Akiko out of the word. In a secret room deep in this Wangchuan Tree Temple, an old man sitting in front of a huge light fruit slowly opened his eyes. Let him in. The old man's words filled the ears of all the disciples. They knew that this was the transmission of the Master. Since the Master has spoken, naturally, the disciples were no longer in the way, and they recognized the people who came. It is the name of the general of the three-stitch method, a ruthless character who is known as the strongest seeker. With Akiko stepping into the inner sanctum, the old voice came again. I didn't expect to move here. You can also find space for a short silence. The next moment the old man turned around. He showed a hearty smile towards Jiang Mingzi. Brother Xian, why are you so fierce? The strange saint trembled a little when he heard it. This strange old man with very white teeth in front of him. It is Zhao Yin, the 9th generation chief of this Wangchuan Academy. Is also Jiang Mingzi's best friend. But this time, Jiang Mingzi didn't come here to catch up with the past. His expression remained indifferent. Ben Xianju knows. Many mortals have been missing here lately. How could the old man not hear the meaning of the general's words? Hurriedly said, I did kill some. The Southern Korean garrison was stationed nearby. It's just that those who should be killed in the first place. These garrisons were originally lifespan. To attack the farther south. Baiwe people saw that the other party was tricky. Put the spearhead. Pointed to several Han Chinese villages nearby. They slaughtered the villagers. And cut off the left ear of the corpse. As a Baiwe person, please seal. Shouldn't a beast like Brother Xian be killed? Well, Mingzi looked sideways. Naturally, he knew something about the actions of those garrisons. It can be said that death is not a pity. It's just that they all died of life from their knees. Zhao Yin looked like 1 year. He understood that Jiang Mingzi already knew everything. Seeing that Zhao Yin did not answer, Jiang Mingzi spoke again, brought up the name of a dead man to the official pin. It's Shushi's silence again. Zhao Yin heard Jiang Mingzi's decision on this trip, even if it's a close friend, nor will he have a trace of mercy. The old man let out a sigh. He did not answer Jiang Mingzi's question. Rather, he talked about a few people. Once upon a time, I think of the first time they met. It is he and his senior sister Shangguan Sales on behalf of Lechuan Shuyuan. Give a gift to the old alliance leader of the Three Truths method. But the two of them are halfway. The island was stopped by the general, who still called himself the master at the time. He said that he had 3 masters. But you have to prepare 4 birthday gifts before you can go up the mountain, because the master himself has to keep a copy. Zhao Yin looked shy. But Shangguan Xiao is a violent temper. He thinks no matter how he looks at it, this stinky boy in front of him should have itchy skin. Unexpectedly, Akiko was not afraid at all. The Swishton asked, "Are ugly men and ugly women coming to fight?" And so a farce began. Several people also met because of this farce. He has become a close friend. After that, every few years they would meet to practice. Execute the beheading of Nirvana under the division of both sides together. The task of the Pan Master. There is also a lifelong friendship between several people. Could it be these? Isn't that enough to be a reason to let us go? Jiang Mingzi is considered a brother. Please let go of the senior sister. Leave us alone. Zhao Yin bowed solemnly to his friend in front of him. And while the two were talking, the huge coffin that was placed in the chamber opened. A woman appeared behind Zhao Yin in an instant. This woman is Shangguan Pin. Merely. At this moment, he has become a Nirvana master. You know how strong this man is in front of you. It's just a miracle. He will be the strongest thief in the matter. The temple of the first to rule is thorough. Just because there's one here. A Nirvana master who feeds on human life. And as the strongest person in the history of the 3 virginity method, Jiang Mingzi's mission is to punish the heavenly Nirvana master. Even if you are going to face your own wisdom. Rain falling from the sky. It seems to reflect the complexity of several people's hearts. Shangguan Xiao will kneel down to Zhao Yin in front of Jiang Mingzi. He had expected today's situation. Maybe from the moment when the Manhwa Shursen really wrote it. He was resurrected in this life. Everything is already predestined. Jiang Mingzi wants the heavens to punish Nirvana. And they want to live. Even if you kill the living, you have to live. The difference in positions. It is destined that there will only be one ending between them. Maybe it's because of your personality. Maybe it's because I saw everything clearly. Shangguan Xiao didn't let Jiang Mingzi make a choice. Although Meiji will die. But he still opened his mouth and said Xiao Ming's name. Come to fight. Looking back, it is 100 years deep. The old people are all the same. All 3 of them have complexities in their hearts. It is not helpful to say more. Both sides want a frank ending. This scene is still the same as when I sighed that things were wrong. Memories are like water in the palm of your hand. Whether you push away or clench. After all, it will still come through the fingers. Drop by drop, it flows clean. It's just the coolness of the water. But it can always be unforgettable. The next moment the heavens and the earth shook. Countless spells. The mountain range where Lethe Tree Temple is located is shrouded. It's really amazing to fight and get promoted. Although concise and straightforward. But it perfectly interprets what it means to fight with the gods. There are no familiar waves of energy. There is no familiar mouth shield. Just plain black and white. But it shows that the mountains and rivers are broken. The shock of the sun and the moon without light. The war lasted only a long time. Shangguan Xiao and the others were defeated. Even if you try your best. They are also outrageously defeated by that strong outrageous in the end. Stinky boy. The wordless hand of Mingzi was cut off and the condensation of supernatural powers. The next moment was in the sky above Shangguan Xiao and the others. A sub-purpose of light emerges. The energy of the Tang Kingdom suddenly caused the heavens and the earth to be overshadowed. Even if you are dying, there was still no word between them. Shangguan Zhao's eyes were full of reluctance. Few words reveal relief. And Mingzi only had a brother to dissolve and say goodbye. A boulder like a mountain peak fell with a bang. Bury the entire Lethe Tree courtyard, and the world is cold. The rain is falling. Will Mingzi stand in front of the boulder? What can I say at this time? The battle has come to an end. As Akiko said before she came, he didn't extinguish the source of the Lethe Tree Temple. It just erased their supernatural powers and memories. Since then, no one knows the cause and effect of what has been planted here. And those who are hiding, time passes. The traces of this place have gradually been erased by the years. High-rise buildings rise nearby. And that boulder has also become a landmark in Mikawa City. Here's one. Specially set up hidden classes within the school. They are not learning mathematics, physics, and chemistry, but prodigies. The original intention of the school to set up this class. It is to cultivate strong seekers. And as the heir of the Three Truths method, the Broken Star Love. He is also a member of this class. But because this guy is too conspiratorial on weekdays, it also caused him to be less popular in the class. But even if you look at the Broken Star Love, it is not pleasing to the eye. Everyone only dared to pay lip service to magic output. Because of this guy, it's like putting an assassin into the Emperor's love. When you play against someone, as long as someone comes within 3 feet of him, he fell to the ground, even for the sake of the rationality of things. He can also spit out a mouthful of blood for you.